What's up, everyone? Welcome back. Another episode of the Quest for Valhalla Paranormal Podcast. That's right. I'm your host, Redbeard, and I am truly grateful that y'all are back for another exciting episode. So today's topic is going to be what it was like to finally do mine and the Quest crew's official first investigation. And we investigated a place that I've already investigated before, and that is the Old City Cemetery in Sacramento, California. It's right outside of downtown, kind of pretty close to Old Town as well. It's off Broadway, so very historical site, very rich in history of the region, and it was just a phenomenal experience. And I want to give a shout out to quite a few of the people that made that happen. Captain Blackfro, appreciate him, even though he has he has a broken ankle, still went out there and did his thing. My mom came, her girlfriend, and not to mention, man, as you might know, I'm on all social platforms, right? I'm on TikTok mostly because that's where I'm having the most success right now, but I'm slowly building YouTube because it tends to be, in my opinion, a little bit harder to grow on, which is fine. I'm in this for the long run, so if it takes time, it takes time. But I met someone on, I was perusing through the countless lives one night, and live feeds, I should say, and I came across a very nice, incredibly unique person, and she goes by the name of Starlight, and the light is Lite. You can find her on TikTok. She has the gift. She is a seer, and if you're a pagan like me, that means she has a gift from the gods. She can sense and interact with spirits and beings like I've never seen before in my entire life. And she actually flew down to this investigation with us. So some would call her a psychic medium. That's kind of like the modern term. But for me, she is a seer, and almost as a priestess in a sense, where the gods have peeled away that veil for her, and she can channel through the spirits, and if you're looking for someone that's truly able, that truly has the gift, she is the one. I'm not saying I'm like some expert on any of this, but I have interacted a lot with people that have claimed to have that ability, and there's only been one other person, but she unfortunately passed away this year. And so Starlight was a huge addition to that investigation. Captain Blackfro's wife, Blondie, she was behind the scenes the whole time, but by far one of our number one supporters. And you know, I have my own supporter behind the scenes. It doesn't like to be mentioned, but without this supporter, I would not be successful at all. So, anywho, jumping into the topic, I was really nervous before this investigation, and I don't really have a whole lot of footage because I'll kind of walk y'all through how the night started, at least for me. I wanted this to be a great experience and opportunity for us to approach it very professionally and kind of introduce ourselves into the paranormal scene, because it's huge. It's very saturated. I mean, there's a few shows that are like top hits kind of thing, like what my dude Nick Groff is doing. He's by far the leader in the industry, if you ask me. And I wish that I had an opportunity to meet him. I know he's very busy, and he's also on the East Coast, and I'm on the West Coast, so that doesn't really help. And I hate flying, so so there's that aspect that I have to contend with. But the industry is very, very full of talent too. And so how do I insert myself? I'm kind of a businessman. Before the Army, that's all I did was, I worked in the automotive industry. I worked in the mortuary industry. Unfortunately, we call that an industry, even though it should not be, but it is. We all die. It's part of life. So there's got to be somebody somewhere to take care of it, and unfortunately it's expensive. And anyway, that's a whole nother topic. But I was super stressed for this investigation just because I wanted it to go so well. And maybe that's me as a perfectionist, or I don't know. It's really hard to say. But we showed up. Everybody got there on time. It was great. And we started. I'll kind of walk you through it. Since there's no video to reference, I'll kind of walk you through how the night went. And that cemetery is also difficult because it's right in the center of a metropolis. There's a Target across the street. So it's pretty hard to, you could hear kids giggling and stuff, and you're like, whoa, is that paranormal? No, that's what they call contamination. Yeah, and not by their own doing. I mean, they're just living life in public, and we were in a public/private area that just happened to be a cemetery. So there was a lot of overflow from that side, deciphering what's paranormal and what wasn't. But we started the evening, and I'll tell you, if you know the story of Wyatt Earp, the famous gunslinger. Some say he was an outlaw, but he was definitely a lawman as well. The famous shootout at the old OK Corral. And he spent some time in Deadwood, and just all around, and an interesting icon in the Wild West. Excuse me, I had to drink water. So his brother, his youngest brother was killed by one of the cowboys. So that storyline is true. I don't know if it happened exactly like they said it did in the movies, but documentaries that I've seen, it does. It's very similar. And his older brother in the movie Tombstone, who's played by Sam Elliott, Virgil Earp, he had a son, and his son is buried in that cemetery. Granted, he passed away in the 1960s. But it was, that's the kind of caliber of things that are going on in that cemetery, like who's there. There's a famous business mogul, Mark Hopkins. He formed the California Pacific Railroad. He's buried there too, and he has a ginormous. It's like a crypt, but it's like a miniature temple just for him. Anyway, a lot of debate there, but we started the evening with trying to talk to the Wolseley family, and Luther Wolseley is the father. Their daughter, May, she passed away in, I want to say, the 1870s. Don't quote me on that. Sorry. I think I would be better with that. She passed away from an illness, unexpectedly. And grief-stricken as any parent would be, they hired at the time, granted, this is the 1800s, so any illness is just in its own, it's unexpected, and in the 1800s, he tried to hire his own mediums to try and communicate with his daughter. And so when we went there that night, that was the first stop on my agenda. It's like, we need to go and do what we can to communicate with them. And so we did. We all kind of formed around it. But before you go up to talk to May, if you don't want to be messed with, the best thing to do is to ask Luther, the father, permission. And so we did that. 3 of us did that. Black Fro, myself, and Starlight went up to ask permission to communicate with his daughter, and he granted us. And you're like, oh, how do you know? Well, I had modern technology rolling at the time. I was using Ghost Tube Vox, and he was responding intelligently to our questions. I asked, is it okay for us to come up and pay our respects? And said, absolutely. He gave us permission. But at the same time, Starlight was making a connection with them on her own. And she made an offering to them, a peace offering, an offering of respect. And it was probably the coolest experience I've ever had. May basically let Starlight know that she's fine, she's happy, and she's actually the caretaker, not caretaker, but like the nanny type role for all of the other. Let me get this off of here. Edit that one out. There we go. She's pretty much the nanny for all the other children in the cemetery. That alone was pretty amazing. And it was very emotional for some of the people there and their experiences in life, but it was also, it felt so good to know that we get to be together again as family in the next life. That part just hit me deep. It's like, that's one of the reasons why I investigate the paranormal, is to kind of validate my belief systems. And so, and it was amazing that we had interaction so fast, because our guide on this from the cemetery, she was like, that is amazing that you're getting responses and activity right out of the gate. So we knew we were on the right track. And from there, we're like, okay, the next stop on the tour, in a sense, is this mortuary, old chapel that turned into a mortuary. I don't remember exactly what year it was built. It's a very old building. It's now a little little history museum, right? There's a custom stained glass window that lights up. That was beautiful. I do have a clip of that and interactions within there. But it's predominantly closed because the homeless population likes to seek shelter in there. And I mean, I don't blame them. It's like almost like a mosaic giant block building that was built a long time ago, and it's insulated. And when you go inside, you can't hear really anything unless the door is open. So we start to head over that way, but before we could, another one of the new investigators of the team, which she came up with her own nickname on the spot, which is pretty rad. Red Raven. Dude, I'm jealous. I didn't think of that. She said, you know what? I feel like I see like all these kids playing like Ring Around the Rosies around this big old oak tree in the center, towards the center of the cemetery. And I was like, really? And then Starlight, she wasn't even part of that discussion, because Red Raven had come over to me and tapped me on the arm and said, hey, I feel like there's kids over there. I feel like I could see them. And then Starlight was like, yeah, she's like, I feel like there's kids dancing around this tree. Like, how can I say, no, let's continue to the mortuary? No, I immediately said, let's go check it out. Because that's what you do. And when you feel moved during an investigation, when you feel like you're going down a certain path that's not necessarily a bad path, but it's a path of most opportunity, you take it. You don't just try to force your agenda. Drinking water now. So, sorry you had to hear me swallow. It's like the worst sound in the world. So, we decided to go to this giant, beautiful tree. I mean, it was like a miniature tree of life. It was so beautiful. And Red Raven and Starlight had a spiritual moment there. And, I tried to film it, but it was difficult because not everybody wanted to be filmed, which I totally respected. And so I really couldn't show the full experience. And it was like the kids were just having a wonderful day. And it was a very peaceful feeling. So we spent some time there and they engaged, and then we're like, okay, let's head back to Station 2. That's where we're going to go into the mortuary one at a time, and one at a time, and try to get as much evidence as we can from in there, because some tragedy happened there, took place there. During the remodel, I want to say. At least this is what I've been told. But couple men perished there when a wall collapsed on them. So a lot of, there's that, and then it was a church at first, and you'll have to excuse the leaf blower in the background. I can never film, I swear. And so they, that place was a place of worship to begin with. So when you go there and you worship whatever God or entity you believe in, you're going to release emotions. You're going to release pain and strife and struggle and ask for whatever. And there's going to be spiritual activity embedded in there. I feel like it's like in the atmosphere. And it really was. Because while we were doing the spirit box session in there, I went in there first, and somebody, came through and mentioned work, and because I was asking about the workers, like what happened, are you still around, typical investigator type questions, and they were kind of responding to me, and then we brought in another person along for the investigation, and he was like, dude, it's like 100 degrees in here, and it wasn't that hot, but I was starting to feel it. It felt like the temperature rose in there really fast, and it could have, because there were now two men in there, larger men, stature wise, were and so it's hard to know if that was paranormal or not, which I don't necessarily believe it is. But he was like, I got to get out of here. It's stifling. I was like, okay. And then Cat the Black Fro came in, and he started getting a lot more responses. And he started seeing things on his camera that I haven't fully looked at yet, but he started picking up on movements in the corners of the room. It's kind of like we entered the room, right? And then everything just spread out into the corners, like standoffish, which makes sense. I mean, you come into somebody's living space and you can't do anything to them. You're going to stay out of the way. But he was getting such great responses and everything. So I said, I'm going to step outside and just film you from the entrance. And at this point I was on TikTok Live, so it was recorded, and those are uploaded onto my channel. And he started getting, so he has German heritage, and he started getting someone speaking fluent German coming through the spirit box. And I even asked if they spoke German. And I got like the most sinister no. It was like terrifying. And I was like, okay, so there must be multiple entities in this room, because, he doesn't, one is actually speaking German, and then he says, no, I don't speak German. So the interesting part about that, when we started identifying what language they were speaking and asking more in-depth questions, the mood and everything in that room shifted. And something, I swear, something like kicked me in the leg, hit me in the leg, in the back too, because my knee just started, I was just standing there, and it just started killing me. I was like, oh my God. And it's in the video. And at that moment, Black Fro saw something kind of move to the corner behind the door. And that's where I was like, I'm going to come back inside. And I went in and went exactly where he saw something go, which was fantastic for me, because after that point, everything shifted for me. It was different. I was more, it made me give up on, and this is where it's important to, I wasn't, not only was I being hard on myself and I felt like I wasn't reaching the expectations that I had set as a creator, as an investigator. But then something was influencing me to doubt myself. And I said, you know what? I told the group, because one person had to leave. They were getting really sick due to health problems. And I was like, I'm getting the impression we should just use the rest of this opportunity to just experience this and not necessarily try to document it. And so I stopped filming at that point. We went back and we reset. We drank water. We ate snacks and stuff. And by that time, it was close to 11 p.m. And so we had one more agenda, and that was to go to the Mark Hopkins side, which is also happens to be the pioneer side. So that's like, 1840s until 1900s, I would say. Roughly 50-year period. Really old headstones and monuments and everything. So once we regrouped and we headed that way, I was then compelled to start recording again, but not how I typically record. It wasn't, it was just through the GhostTube app. I was like, I'm gonna try to communicate, and then I'm going to just record through this, and whatever I get, whatever. That is when I got some of the most amazing evidence I've ever had. When we got to the Hopkins Memorial, that's when really cool stuff started happening. We had a laser grid set up, and which didn't show anything other than me being blinded in the eye. You'd think Black Fro for that. But so we were sitting there trying to get responses and talking, and then Starlight was like, I'm getting this impression that there's a young woman that must have been like a performer, ballerina, a dancer, something, is next to me right here. Like she's trying to show me and that she can dance and all, she's like communicating with Starlight. Her name was Elizabeth. Told her name. And I think, I don't know, that at that point in the night, I was in a lot of pain and things kind of seemed blurry to me, fuzzy, but I was still able to interact. But I do recall that we found a headstone with that name on it right near us. And so I said, Starlight, is it okay? I want to validate what you're feeling with technology. And she said, absolutely, let's do it. And as she's sitting there interacting, I kind of snuck off behind everybody, shooting back towards them with the SLS camera, right? Maps in figures and stuff. And lo and behold, I captured what she was talking about. Some kind of figure was like dancing in the air. And that had to have been the coolest experience ever. To validate a medium's abilities with technology. You just can't explain that. And that's, for me, that's a gold, that's hitting pay dirt. That's finding a gold nugget, so to speak. what we live for. So we spent a good 15 minutes there interacting with various people, and then we were kind of enticed to go further into the dark side. I don't mean spiritually dark. I mean like there was less light down further in the older cemetery and older part of the cemetery. And when we got down there, and it was close to midnight, and it was just instantly hit with activity, voices. We were seeing movements, and I'm going to get to the most amazing part, in my opinion, what happened. And it wasn't necessarily amazing for good reasons, but it was insane. So we got down and started kind of going in between the headstones and, respectively, of course, and asking to be communicated with. And when I came over to this huge plot with like generations buried there, I was like, is there anybody in here with me? And I panned my camera, and this video is uploaded. And it's this like white clump of something. I thought it was maybe a spider web. I thought it was maybe some kind of bug got on my lens on my iPhone, on all 7 lenses, however it has. And you see the mist kind of come in, and then it just like sucks into my phone. And I'm like, okay, something's in my phone or on my phone, what I was thinking. And then you could see that I try to wipe it off my phone, but then you see it kind of come out and hover, and I'm like looking around and trying to see, hey, I guess debunk it, you know what I mean? And I couldn't, because right before that happened, some Starlight was saying that somebody was using her energy. She's like, you're not allowed to. And I said, okay, we'll use my phone. Use the energy in my phone. And then that's when I captured that on camera. It was pretty mind-blowing. And my iPhone runs hot, especially when I'm filming. Like sometimes it's like, I don't even want to hold it. And it made my phone ice cold. Like I had it in the refrigerator. Could not explain it. Is it paranormal? I believe so. And that's kind of what it comes down to when you're investigating. I tried to disprove it by thinking, okay, this could be an object on my lens. But then we witnessed it further. And then Starlight saw it with her own 2 eyes. And then it started talking to us through the spirit box. Because that's what my phone was, the spirit box. That was like what we look for. And after, I was amped at that point. I was really, really motivated to continue. And off in the distance, and mind you, I did understand that we were surrounded by houses and normal people out there living their lives. I kept hearing children, and in particular ones, there was laughter, and then there was one that sounded like it was sobbing and crying. And I haven't posted this yet, but it was a different section of the cemetery that we weren't even supposed to go in. And it was a good 200 yards, so 2 football fields in front of us in the darkness. And I was like, hey, it sounds like someone's in trouble. Like, it really sounded legitimate. And so I started heading out there. I thought people were following behind me. Let's go investigate this. Let's go try to find if it's kids playing in the street. There's 10 acres on this of this cemetery. 10 acres. That's huge. And as I start to get out there, Starlight tells Blackfro, no, get him back here now. That's not a child. That's not human. She said it was mimicking. It was a mimic. And as I got closer, they could hear like a sinister laugh, but I couldn't. All I could hear was just the kid basically asking for help. And so they finally got my attention, and I didn't realize how far I had gone. I had gone about 100 yards, so I was halfway there before they got my attention. And I was in a predicament, because it was paranormal that was messing with me, but it was not good. It was not an entity that I needed to be around. So from there, it's like I gotta get back. My pain just went through the roof. I barely strolled back, and everybody was just feeling it, feeling drained, feeling there's a lot of adrenaline rushes too, but we kind of meandered our way back. But the other part that was cool was in the center of the cemetery. It's not very well lit. There's a lot of darkness, and I don't mean that negatively, but I felt like that's where all the spirits were hanging out. It was in the center, and then they would come out and they would manifest, and then they would dart behind trees. And I also had problems with seeing things move real quick, duck behind things, and I didn't know if it was my imagination or if it was real or what, but it was loaded with stuff, and it was probably the best investigation I've done yet. And again, it wouldn't have been as possible if it wasn't for everybody that was there. Even though I'm really hard on myself, and I don't feel like it was a success, but it was 100% a success, because we were able to validate stories and claims and experience the paranormal, not in the way that you see sometimes that makes you wonder if it's real or not. Because there are a lot of small-time shows and investigators like myself that try to do things to get viewership. Most, I would say 99%, 99% of the people out there that watch paranormal stuff do it just to get scared. And here comes a leaf blower. Just work. He's just doing his thing. So you're going to have to listen to a leaf blower if I do. So, yeah, 99% of the world, I would say. I mean, I might be being a little conservative with the numbers, but they're just in it for the scare factor. They want to get scared, and then that's it. And then you have those like 1%ers who are dedicated to it, that have experienced it, and then now it's become a mission in life to prove the afterlife, prove what they saw, and that we aren't crazy. And that's what we did. Plain and simple. We validated so many things out there. And if you don't believe in the power of mediumship and seers, go find Starlight and book a reading with her. She uses her gift for others. She's also a human being and has to deal with so many ailments, and we all do. I mean, Captain Blackfro has a broken ankle, and I was like, dude, you're staying home. He's like, nope, I'm going. But I've got to figure out a way to, I felt like I was preparing for the Super Bowl. I don't even know what that's like, but that level of preparation going into something, like you're so dedicated, you want it to succeed, you want to win. That's how I felt like going into this investigation. But I didn't take the moment to realize that this is our first time out, and it's not going to be perfect. There's no way. So it kind of bridges into what I'm going to talk about next. And I love investigating, and it's going to be my focus. But there are other things that I've discovered during these little investigations that I've been doing by myself. And that is, I truly enjoy being alone and investigating. I would like to bring a couple people here and there. Big group investigations are tough. I won't lie. There's a lot of moving parts, and it's hard to keep an eye on everybody and make sure they don't wander off. And I think this individual knows who I'm talking about. But I still want to go by myself and experience it alone at night. It's almost like facing your fears, facing the unknown. Not to see if I'm cool enough, brave enough, or whatever. Just, it's part of something I want to conquer. And then I also want to do group investigations. But the biggest thing is starting an organization that is dedicated. There are ones out there. There are historical societies all over the place that do an amazing job. But they also are restrictive in a lot of ways. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. But there are a lot that look down upon paranormal research. So what I am going to do, and I'm announcing it to the world right now here on this podcast, and you'll have it as clips, and it's going to be playing on Apple all over the world. I'm going to start next year. This is an organization called the Paranormal and Historical Research Society of America. Yeah, it's big. I know, it's a big name. But think about the name there. The Paranormal and Historical Research. Right there. Keywords. It's going to be about preserving history, working alongside organizations like Save the Graves in El Dorado County. Phenomenal organization. Not only do they advocate and take care of cemeteries and raise money to preserve very old headstones, and also help restore them. Did I just say that? I might have just said that. Restore them, preserve them, and help rebuild headstones that have broken. Some of them are due to vandalism, which needs to stop. Hold that thought. Sorry, I just shook the camera. Not only that, but they spread awareness, and they truly care about the community. And I got to meet one of the board members and told her what I did and how much I respect them, because they do such a great job. There's like 20-something cemeteries in that county all over the place from the Gold Rush era. And they just do such great work. And I told her that, and she's like, well, what do you do? And I was like, I film. I go during the day, respectfully, respecting laws. I know we have a constitutional amendment protections, but that doesn't mean we go and be disrespectful with it. I mean, that's just part of being a community member. So I go during hours that I'm supposed to be there, and I respect their bylaws and ordinances, and then I film, and that's why most of the time my stuff is done during the day because they close at dusk. So my paranormal activity I've caught so far has been not as significant as other shows because they're able to go places at night, legally or not. I don't know. But when I mentioned what I did to her, not what I did to her, but when she asked me what I do and I told her about paranormal research, her eyes lit up. She's like, "Oh my God, I love it. I love the paranormal." And then she gave me advice on what I should do. She wanted, unfortunately, I had prior engagements and I couldn't make it to the fundraising event at one of the cemeteries. But she was like, you should go to Chamber of Commerce. You should do this, and they can help you get a permit, and so you can not only help protect the cemeteries and the history side of things, but you can also take that opportunity to research the paranormal, which is phenomenal. And I was just blown away. So that's why I originally was going to name it something in El Dorado County, because that's where I love to be. That's where I spend most of my time. But that kind of ropes me into just that region. And I was like, okay, well, what about West Coast or California or whatever? Still roping myself in. So this organization that I'm going to create next year is going to be all of the United States. Prestige worldwide, wide. You know what I mean? I'm such a nerd. It's gonna give me and whoever truly feels the same way about this cause that joins the organization. It's gonna give us the opportunity to be anywhere. Because I'm not gonna live in California forever. No, there's no way. So I'm excited about that. My future is bright. And not the fact that I'm going to be a star or trying to be a star. It's that I'm going to use my gifts and talents for something that could make a difference even at the micro level. That's what it comes down to. I was gifted. I have a gifted tongue. I could speak. I could speak to crowds. I get nervous, but it doesn't show. I can do this. I can be on lives. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm not afraid to be who I am. And it's taken years to perfect, and I'm still not perfect at it, but using my talents to be able to make a difference in a community. That's what it's about. That's my purpose. And it's become clear. And apparently I'm really good at photography as well, which I don't see it, but because I'm not like I'm going to take these great portraits, It's really my phone can take great portraits. But I feel like I'm really good at capturing moments. And so another opportunity of mine is to branch off into photography. Why not? I'm always taking pictures. I'm filming. Photography, videography. I'm gonna offer that as well. And I want to be a person that if you have a special event or you have something that you want to do, but you can't afford a huge, big time photographer, I want to offer you the opportunity to capture those moments and still have quality, lifelong, lasting memories in the form of photos or videos. at a good enough price to where, I mean, it's not gonna, I'm not spending money to help people because I can't afford that. I'm sorry. I'm not a philanthropist. But I'm not going to charge thousands of dollars to take photos. That's crazy. So that's it. And that's called Photos by Redbeard, because I love Redbeard, my image, and it's who I am, man. This beard, it's heritage. And now the buzzing you're hearing is my water heater, because I swear, man, it's hard to make any kind of digital sound. Anyway. But yeah, I love the character I've become. And it's taken 40 years. No, probably like 37. No, 27, sorry. No, 37. Yeah. Yeah, if I could do math. Probably since I was like 3 when I started caring about the way I looked and who I was and who I wanted to be. That's right around the age 3, 4 when you're like, I want to be a garbage man, or I want to be a policeman. Those kind of things. It's taken me that long to be the person you're seeing right now. But I'm here, and take it or leave it. That's all that matters. So, I appreciate everybody that came out for the Quest Crew investigation. I appreciate the Old City Sacramento. Excuse me, sorry about that. The Old City Sacramento the cemetery administration, I want to call them. And they really stepped up and allowed us to experience that night. So I'm really grateful for all my supporters, all my support system, all of you out there that listen to my show, subscribe to my show, that are part of my TikTok lives, that listen to this podcast. I'd love to have people come on the show. Anybody who wants to talk about it. But you gotta be serious. I'm not gonna goof off. So, but the next show I want to talk about I haven't fully ironed it out yet. But we're gonna get back into the topic, and it's almost Halloween, right? Get out there and celebrate Halloween, and remember, Halloween is all year long. Don't forget that. But anyway, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Thank you so much for being a part of the Quest for Valhalla and making Redbeard happen. And tell your friends and family. Share, like, all that stuff. Anyway, I'll catch you next time.